Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This video is part 2 of a character modeling series. In today's video we are going to block out and do some rough sculpting of our character's body to end up with something like this. I'm not 100% sure what the character is going to look like, to be honest. I imagine a stylized warrior of some sort. I'm curious to know what you guys think. What kind of weapon do you think he should have maybe? A sword? An axe? Maybe a big shield? I'm flying by the seat of my pants on this one, so let me know. This video is a continuation of part 1, where we blocked out and rough sculpted our character's head, so check it out if you haven't already. I go over a lot of the common shortcuts I use here in that video. Okay, so getting started with the blockout, this will be similar to what we did for the head. I'm going to start with a rounded cube with 16 arc divisions, and then use the deform brush to pull it into the general shape. I also use shift a lot to smooth, as I find it helps in shaping as well. Over on the right, you can hide the reference image with the arm on it, so you can get a better view of the body's silhouette without the arm obstructing the way. Also, pressing Alt plus Z to toggle the X-ray mode can help in lining things up. Obviously, you don't need to line things up perfectly with the blueprint. I end up finding that the blueprint is a little bit too square and wide for me, and I start deviating from it myself. Now 7 on the numpad for top view, I'm going to add in a rounded capsule to form the abdomen. Adding in some control loops to get some more sculpting control. Then Shift D to duplicate the chest to form the hips. Using more smooth brush by holding Shift to take down the shape. Now onto the thighs and calves, starting with a rounded capsule again. Adding control loops again for better sculpting control, and then I'm going to turn off sculpting symmetry to get the shape I want for the thigh. Shift D to duplicate the thighs and form the calves. If you want to move an object that has a mirror modifier on it, I would suggest tabbing into edit mode and then moving it by selecting all the vertices. That way the object's origin does not move and the mirror axis thus stays in place. Now onto the arms, I'm going to Shift D to duplicate the thighs, and then it's just more pushing, pulling, and smoothing to get the desired shape. Same as before, you can hide the side reference image with the body on it, and unhide the arm reference image to get a clearer view and line things up better. Now onto the foot. I've put a shape of a foot on the blueprint to help with this part. Just trace it out by adding a single vertex and then pressing E to extrude all the way around. Make sure you have the same number of vertices on both sides of the foot. Then you can select the 4 vertices at one end and press F to create a face. Then switch to edge mode. Then select the outer edge here, and then you can press F all the way down to automatically create quad faces. Then just selecting all the vertices and R to rotate the foot shape into place, and then E to extrude up like this. Then I'll tab into edit mode with face selection on and extrude a portion up like this for the ankle part of the foot. Then I tab into edit mode and then right click and subdivide the object to get a little bit more geometry for easier sculpting. Control A, clear transforms for the mirror modifier, and then add the mirror modifier. Now onto the hands, Shift D to duplicate the forearms, and then shaping. For the fingers, I'll add in a rounded capsule. Here I select the vertices on the top and bottom, press S and then Z to scale along the Z axis only to flatten it down a bit for a more kind of stylized, squared off look. I will use 3 capsules for each finger, rotating each into place like this. Try and keep some space in between each finger. It will make joining them a little bit easier later on. Selecting the fingers now, pressing Control A and clearing transforms on all of them, then adding a mirror modifier to one of them, and then pressing Control L to add it to the rest of the selected fingers, just like we did in part 1 for the eye. Okay, so now we're ready to join all of the objects and start doing some rough sculpting. Here I'm selecting all of the body objects and then pressing Ctrl J to join them. They are now all one object. Now I'm going to press Shift R to set the voxel remesh size. The lower the number here, the higher the resolution. And then Ctrl R to perform the voxel remesh. You can see here at this voxel size, there are some artifacts in between the fingers which look pretty bad. To fix this, you can increase the voxel size and or move the objects farther away from each other. So I'm going to undo that. Press Shift R and try an even lower voxel size. You can see the poly count in the bottom right corner jumps up pretty significantly though, and I still have some small artifacts in between a couple of the fingers. And my computer is already slowing down when I try to sculpt here. If you don't have this problem with the artifacts and your computer isn't slowing down, I would just keep it all in piece, because I end up joining them all into one piece later. So I'm going to undo all the way back to before we perform the Ctrl J join operation by going up to the edit menu and then into the undo history. Now I'm just going to select the body and Ctrl J to join. Now I can use a different voxel size for the body and the hands and keep my poly count lower so my computer doesn't bog down too much. Now I'll select just the hand objects and Ctrl J to join them. Now I can use a bigger voxel size on the body, and then a smaller, higher resolution voxel size on the hands so we don't get those artifacts we got before in between the fingers. Now my poly count is a lot lower and I can sculpt without too much problem. With that resolved, at least for the time being, I'm now going to start roughing in some details. I'm going to start by holding Shift and smoothing things out a bit. Then with the clay strips brush, I'll start drawing in some knuckles like this. Then I'm going to invert the clay strips brush by holding Control, and then I'm going to use that to dig out the well for the palm. And then with the crease brush, I'll start highlighting the finger joints and some folds on the hands. I think I'll end up having the character wear gloves, so this may already be too much detail, so I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Now onto the body, same as with the hand, just smoothing everything out, and then I'm going to start roughing in some details. We will refine these in a later video when we get a better idea how things end up with respect to armor and clothing and other accessories. My fuzzy idea of this character is that he'll be a warrior of some kind, so I think I'll have him with just armor on his upper body and no clothing. I imagine he'll have some pants on, so I'm going to keep the details on the legs relatively low as well. Here I just use a lot of crease brush and inverted crease brush to rough in subtle details. At this stage, I'm just keeping the details rough, and after we retopologize and have the multi-resolution modifier on, we can do the final pass to tighten things up. I like to always have a reference image of the human body up on another screen just to help with the general layout of the human musculature. I would recommend doing a web search for the term human écorche. These will give you images that show a sort of map of the human musculature, which can be very helpful when sculpting characters. To get that sort of defined line look, I use the inverted crease brush by holding Control. I also like to sometimes use the scrape brush to further accentuate the stylized look as well, but I don't do it here just yet. Now I'm going to add in a pair of shorts quickly just for fun for the YouTube thumbnail, just so he doesn't look naked. This won't be for the final character, but this is a helpful technique to quickly add clothes. To do this, select the mask tool down here, and then you can paint the shape of the clothing or accessories you want to add. If you're feeling like parts of your model are getting in the way of your view, you can press Alt-B and left mouse button to draw a temporary view region like this. This makes it easier to isolate parts of a model quickly. Now you can paint a little bit easier and pan and orbit around without the hand and arm getting in the way. To reset or clear this view region, just press Alt-B again. Now with your mask drawn, go up to the mask menu here and select Mask Extract. Now you can see you have a separate mesh that follows the form of your sculpt. You can play with the thickness over on the right in the modifier panel, as well as smooth and sculpt this like any other mesh. Thanks again to Henry Grimes for this tip in the comments of another video. To keep this video from getting too long, I did do a bunch of micro adjustments that I haven't shown here to get the look that I wanted. Just small pushes and pulls everywhere with the Sculpt Deform brush, and I also scaled the hands down a tad as well. As you can see, I made my character a little bit smaller than my original blueprint, but still trying to keep the same bulky feel. Okay, for the final step, the character right now is 3 separate objects: a head, body, and hands. And I want to make everything one object so that the next step, retopologizing, is a little bit easier. Before we join, make sure to apply your mirror modifiers to things like the eyelids and the hands. Now up to the voxel remesh menu, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select the hand, since I know that is the object with the highest resolution. If I go with a lower resolution than that of the hand, I risk having the same artifacts coming back in between the fingers as we saw earlier. So now with the voxel size set, I'm going to just press Ctrl R. Now I'm just going to smooth the creases out to finish up. Anyway, that's it for today. In the next video, we'll start adding in some clothing, armor, and other accessories. Like I said, I'm still not 100% sure on what I want the character to look like exactly, so if you guys have any ideas, let me know. Hit me up on social media and show me what you guys have so far. I really want to see what you guys are coming up with. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope it helped, and see you in the next one.